I'm sure others will filter in while I do my song and dance here. So this is kind of a twofer. I'm doing this on behalf of 80/20 Endurance, a company I co-founded a number of years ago. I'm also wearing my Endurance Mastery hat. That's a newer Substack. There's overlap between the two, but invitations were sent to people in both camps. So welcome 80/20 people, welcome also Endurance Mastery people. Um, so yeah, I'm stoked about this. Feels like this was a long time in coming in some ways. Um, so, I've been a student of endurance sports really since the mid 1980s. That's going back a ways. Um, I started learning early, and I've kept learning. I've seen a lot. I've seen a lot of different training methods kind of come and go. And quite honestly, I wondered if like we just had it all figured out and nothing new was going, there were fads, but I didn't jump on board those bandwagons because they just didn't, for me, like it's got to be done successfully at the elite level or I'm not going to pay attention. And then there should be sooner or later some science uh, validating a particular training method. If you're not checking those two boxes, also there's just kind of a sniff test, like, when you're presented with like a new concept in training, based on what you know, like, does it seem worth a try or not? So there's that as well, maybe three factors. Um, and, certainly the sport methodology has evolved, but it's mostly just been like kind of around the periphery, like strength training and mobility training have become much more advanced in my lifetime. But in terms of like the core endurance training, it just seemed like there was nothing new under the sun that was like really going to stand the test of time until this. Um, and that's my opinion. So, you know, the Norwegian method came around at a time when I couldn't run myself, like I couldn't exercise. I was down with long COVID. Um, and I've always been because I've always been an athlete. Um, I was an athlete long before I was a coach. Like I've always relied on guinea pigging methods for myself as an athlete, just to kick the tires on them and see if something new or different was worth passing on to the athletes I coach. But as we'll get into, when the Norwegian method hit, like I couldn't I couldn't guinea pig it on myself. And so I didn't really do much with it. Like I paid attention, I learned about it like on a conceptual level. But in the last year, I've been healthy enough again to give it a try. And the things that other people report when they give it a try, like how they experience it, like definitely I was right in line with that. Um, and it had already, for me, passed the sniff test. It started at the elite level. It did not start in a laboratory. It clearly works at the elite level. Science is now backing it up. And it just kind of makes sense logically. So, the experience of validating the method on myself as an athlete led me to start using it with athletes I coach individually. Have gotten excellent results there as well. And then that led to the creation of training plans, now available through, whether powered by 80/20 Endurance, available at norwegiantraining.com. Without further ado, here's the ground I'm going to cover. Talk a little bit about where the method came from, which is always worth doing, right? Because some ideas have come along from people who aren't even in the running space. And it's like, what do you know? So it's good to know, it's like, consider the source. It's good to know where like a new method came from. And then, there's a lot to it and people can debate exactly what is or isn't it's metastasizing and it's being applied in different ways all over the place. But I think there's some core elements to it that are really definitive. And then we'll make an important distinction between, because it's like, all right, this started at the elite level. This is what the elites do, but I'm not elite. So how much of this actually translates? And I think if you distinguish between like specific practices and the principles that undergird those practices, then you realize, like, oh yeah, like mere mortals can do this with proper scaling. So it's just about like understanding the principles and then scaling them to the individual athlete. And then, yeah, we'll talk about Norwegian training for mortals, like what that scaling actually looks like. I'll throw our plans in front of you and then take questions. In terms of origins, I've been a fan of elite track and field long enough to remember this gentleman here, Marius Bakken. He was set multiple national records. So Norwegian runner, track runner, 5,000 meter specialist. And now he was the best Norwegian male track runner of all time, distance runner, during his era. And he really sort of pioneered a lot of what, there's much more to the story, but if I'm going to put one person in front of you, I think the most influential was Marius Bakken. So, he just got really, really into lactate testing around the beginning of the 21st century. And this is a quote here from kind of a white paper he wrote about the method. He had a coach, but he was he was kind of like constantly like at odds with his coaches and like testing the things they gave him and giving pushback, and really sort of like ultimately developing like his own optimal way of training. But like Norway's a small country, and this guy, like he was influential, and so people were interested in what he was doing. So the things that he kind of pioneered, just guinea pigging himself, ended up kind of spreading and passing like into the next generation of elite Norwegian endurance athletes. And like it definitely did not all come from him. But what we think of as the Norwegian method of endurance training, you can definitely, there's a pretty straight line back to this gentleman here. So in terms of like what makes it different, number one is, like if you know a little bit about the Norwegian method, you probably, are familiar with the term double threshold training. And all that means is athletes are doing like a pretty beefy, like threshold intensity interval workout in the morning, and then they're coming back to the track or wherever and doing another one, different format, but same basic idea, like on the same day. But what's different about those workouts is that the intensity is like very controlled. So what you find when you do one of these workouts is that on paper it looks like a lot. It's like, whoa, 20 times 400 meters. But then, 20 times 400 meters is only 8K. And if you look at the pace, it's like, oh, it's threshold. And it's only 400 meters at a time. The rests are short, but I only get a little bit of a rest. So that is like a classic Norwegian style interval workout where it's like, it's a lot of volume. It's relatively short reps given the intensity, and the intensity is like very controlled. Which is, a departure from traditional. It's basically combining what in traditional training we did in two separate kinds of workouts. One would be intervals, which were almost always high intensity, not moderate. and so-called tempo sessions where you do big blocks, like 2 times 20 minutes at moderate threshold intensity. So you were either like going faster in shorter bursts, or you were going moderate in longer blocks. And what the Norwegians do is like take the moderate stuff and break it up into intervals. And yeah, that's what's unique about it. So, in terms of like the double threshold thing, like doing 2 of those sessions on the same day, we'll get into that in a minute. But it's like helpful just to isolate one of those sessions and to highlight like what is kind of innovative about that. So there's that. Like, have you ever like watched a YouTube video like of an elite runner doing a workout and it's an easy run? I haven't. It's like that's the 80%, right? Like the low intensity, just like coasting along for an hour. Like that's most of what, us or most of what we do. It's most of what the elites do, but it never makes it onto a video because it's like it's not really good television. So, the intervals are sexy, but 80% of your training is the easy stuff. And that is actually the greatest opportunity to get fitter. And so, yeah, double threshold gets all the hype and the attention, but they're also doing something very similar in their low intensity sessions where like they're going really easy. And so like keeping like a lower cap on their intensity in those sessions than is commonly practiced. So you're sensing a theme here, like everything is kind of like just a little bit more restrained, like intensity wise, like the intervals are less intense, and also even like the low intensity easy stuff is also less intense. So pretty much everything is less intense. What do you get? And it's not like I'm, you're still doing intervals. They're just less intense. So it's still 80-20. But what do you get when you just like dial everything back a little bit? You can do more. And that's why like double threshold, it's like it's kind of like so manageable that you can do it twice in one day. So yeah, like just more moderated interval workouts, even easier, easy sessions, and then higher volume as a result. You just like the energy you get back from bringing the intensity down, that you can reinvest that freed up energy into higher volume. So yeah, I said like when you think of the Norwegian method, you think of double threshold. And I said, we would talk about that. And now we're going to. So this is the case, not just with the Norwegian method, but like anytime you're contemplating, emulating elite practices and training, there's a scaling question, right? It's just like, I mean, you are not a 26-year-old genetic lottery winner, presumably. They are. So like you're not them, but you're both human, you know what I mean? So like basically like what works for them is also going to work for us, but not if you're too literal in the translation. Like you have to like understand the principles behind the specific practices. And then what you're really implementing is the principles. And that just gets you to scale things down while retaining like the underlying logic of the method. So yeah, I'm just going to throw in front of you these like specific practices. Like, if you Google, how does Jakob Ingebrigtsen train? You're going to find the stuff on the left-hand column here. But what I want you to understand is like the principles that are behind those specific practices, so that is what you apply with yourself and with the non-elite athletes you might coach. So a specific practice, like a pretty standard Norwegian style interval workout for an elite athlete would be 12 times 1,000 meters at threshold intensity with a minute's rest. So yeah, that's distance based. So there's already some scaling that has to happen there, right? For Jakob Ingebrigtsen, he's running those in like 3 minutes. So it's really like a 3 minute interval. All the rest of us are not going to cover 3 minutes. I mean, cover 1,000 meters in 3 minutes. So just translating, for starters, like translating distance to time is one way that you scale it. But still, 12 times 1,000 meters is a lot. And that's too big a workout for the vast majority of athletes at most times. So that's fine. So what's the principle behind that specific practice? High volume threshold workouts with relatively short intervals and very short rest periods. So that's all we're talking about here. All right, so it's got to be big for me. It doesn't have to be Jakob Ingebrigtsen big. It just has to be big, like a lot of volume based on like what I do. And then again, like you're taking what would normally be a tempo run 2 times 20 minutes, and you're turning it into an interval session. Same intensity though. You're just dicing it up. That makes it more manageable. And the whole idea is like, oh, because you've made it more manageable, you can do more of it. So 12 times 1,000 is going to be too much for a lot of athletes, but 7-8 times 3 minutes, very doable for a lot of athletes. And then the second one, the practice of double threshold training. Like, what is that? Like, why? The concept there is, for a long time, this is, one thing I grew up on. There was like what was called the hard, easy rule. I think it was Bill Dellinger, the University of Oregon coach, coined that term, like hard, easy. So the idea is like you want to like space out your harder sessions. Give if you have 2 in 1 week, you want a couple days in between them. If you have 3 in 1 week, you want at least 1 lighter day in between. But like there actually, there is an argument to be made for kind of doing the opposite of that and like bunching up hard efforts. It's like, why don't we just like really pile on on the hard days and then like space out the hard days more, so that you're still recovering. You're not just putting yourself through a meat grinder, but it's not like hard, easy. It's like double hard, easy, 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 double hard, that kind of thing. And, in running, technology plays a role, like with the double threshold thing. I mean, you can do it as a triathlete, a multi-sport athlete. It's bike in the morning, run in the afternoon. What made it possible for runners, which is really where it originated, was super shoes. It's like, these like shoes that practically run for you. Elite athletes like started using them. They were supposed to be for racing. They realized, wow, when I wear them, I feel way less beat up. And so why don't I use that like in training to actually like do more in one day? And that's where like double threshold training really originated. So, like doing 2 big moderate intensity workouts on the same day is just too much for most athletes. I mean, if you're not routinely training twice a day, like even easy sessions, like you have no business like leaping from like 1 session a day to 2 hard sessions in one day. Like that's not building you up. That is breaking you down. But what is the underlying principle? The underlying principle is like you're moving away from the hard, easy principle and blocking your harder efforts. Like, so bunching them up a little bit more, which you can do even if you're just like a once a day or even like a 4 times a week trainer. And then the last one is like lactate testing, famously, with in workout lactate testing, doing the finger pricks, getting the measurements, like during the rest periods between intervals, is very widely practiced, especially in Norway. It's interesting, like as that method has diffused to other places, I see like much less reliance on lactate testing in, even like elite level like runners in this country, for example. I ask them every chance I get. It's like, are you doing the Norwegian method? Like, do you do the lactate testing? And a lot of them don't. And why don't they? Because there's a principle that's behind the lactate testing. And I quote a line from Olav Boo, the coach, the renowned Norwegian triathlon coach who previously coached Gustav Iden and Christian Blumenfeld. He said in that interview for Triathlete, we could do without these tools. Like we could be at the same level we are. Like, yeah, we're known for like being like tech reliant, but like we aren't really tech dependent. I'm putting words in his mouth, but like that was basically the essence of it. It's like basically, yeah, we do lactate testing. It's not about the lactate testing. What is it about? It's about enforcing intentional, disciplined intensity control in your workouts. So, blood lactate, don't lie. So when you take those fingerprints pricks and you get a certain number, and you've committed to respecting a certain ceiling for blood lactate, it just gets you to hold back. Like decisions you would not make as an athlete based on how you're feeling and how the workout's going, you actually have to like slow down and contain yourself if you're using blood lactate measurements. So yeah, it's just like a wholly different kind of like mindset. And all the lactate testing really does is reinforce that mindset. It's just like, just because I can doesn't mean I should. For me, like if you're doing like a Norwegian style interval workout, like if it's not like a bad day where you just like feel like crap, but if it's like a normal day for you and your body, and you do one of these Norwegian style workouts, like you feel like like almost like cabin fever, like I could be doing this so much faster. Like that's doing it right. And it's only when you just like keep piling on the intervals that it starts to be like Chinese water torture. like it gets hard, but it takes a while. And even when you finish, usually you should feel like that was very manageable. And that's exactly why the elites come back the same afternoon and do it again, because it's very manageable. So, and honestly, in my experience, like as a coach, like this intentional disciplined intensity control, I don't care whether you're doing the Norwegian method or just like training smart, like you should be doing that. And so many athletes are like doing their interval sessions kind of mindlessly. It's just like whatever the structure is, they do 90%, 10 times 400, 90%, 6 times 1K, 90%. And it's not, and the Norwegian method kind of like inverts that, turns it on its head. It's like, no, we are starting with an intensity, and like the intensity is the intensity. Like if you exceed it, you fucked up. Like that's like you're not doing the Norwegian method. So it starts with the intensity, and then you come up with a structure that allows you to maximize the amount of time you can spend at that intensity without simply just doing too much. And that's why you get those kind of innovative moderate intensity interval workout formats. But again, like I'm not against lactate testing, but I don't think it's necessary. I don't think it's really, as a practice, the essence of the method. So in terms of like, like what does it look like to scale this? So I just took a random week from the level 1 10K, or no, level 2 10K plan for the new Norwegian training plans I created. So this is like the peak training week for someone who trains a runner who trains daily, like with a day off every 3 weeks. So a few things will jump out. I'll actually start with the unsexy stuff that does not make it into YouTube workout porn videos. You'll look at day 3 of the week and day 6 are zone 1 runs. So these are like your foundation runs, but your cap is now the top of zone 1. And that really, I worried when I got into this, are we going to have to like make new zones? But honestly, like the top of zone 1 is pretty much like where the ceiling is for the Jakob Ingebrigtsens, for their low intensity stuff. So make of that what you will. I know a lot of people feel like the top of zone 2 is too high. I mean, just like, like they want to run faster. So it can be hard to slow down this much, but some of the like Norwegian elites will walk up hills when they're out for a run. And these are people who go to the Olympics. So there's that. So again, like just like it's different. It's different. It's very much contiguous with everything we've done with 80/20, but it is different. So easy runs even easier. And then the day 2 session is, so I have like 3 basic like variations on these Norwegian. I mean, I created lots of new workouts, but there are 3 that you'll see if you follow any of these plans are kind of recurring. They're cycling through, and they're just like basically just below threshold, right at threshold, and just above threshold. Like those are the 3 flavors. So steady state intervals just below, threshold intervals obviously at threshold, and then critical velocity intervals just above threshold. So contrary to what you might, so I don't know what some proponents might think, like there's nothing special about being right at your lactate threshold. In fact, it's almost impossible to even find accurately like what is your lactate threshold. Well, it changes daily, and there are different definitions of it. So the whole precision piece is overrated, but still there is magic in being close to that intensity, because it's a lot more, you can handle quite a bit more of it than you can handle high intensity, but it is also on a minute per minute basis, like more beneficial than low intensity. So it's kind of just like a Goldilocks zone, and you can overdo anything. You wouldn't want to overdo that. But this is what it looks like in a traditional training plan. The workout you see on day 2 and the workout you see on day 5, they would not be in the same week because those are like very similar stimuli. But that's what makes the Norwegian method the Norwegian method. Like you're placing a heavier emphasis on that type of stimulus than you are in traditional training. It's not like the high intensity stuff goes away. I've marginalized it up to this point in this presentation, but high intensity is still there. But it is just a little bit more at the margin, because it's making space for what you have here, which is like a nice beefy steady state interval workout 3 times 10 minutes in zone X, and then a nice beefy threshold intensity workout 8 times 3 minutes. You see the rests are pretty short, like just 1 minute off of 10 minutes and 45 seconds off of 3 minutes. So like, yeah, very contained, chill, low intensity sessions. And then like true Norwegian style, moderate intensity sessions twice in 1 week, which is again, like not what you would normally do. And then what's covered up on the weekend here is the endurance run. So there I let you play in zone 2 versus holding all the way back to zone 1, because I don't want people to go crazy. So this is just like the plans we have now. I know that's a lot, but it's like we've launched with run plans for the 4 most popular race distances: 5K, 10K, half marathon, marathon. The usual 4 levels: 0 beginner, 3 sub elite, and then your choice of intensity metrics: pace, heart rate, and power. And then I'm working on the triathlon plans. I've got a lot going on, and I haven't made as much progress. But we've sort of invented the wheel. We've gotten through our teething pains, and yeah, it's mostly me. I'm building them with a big assist from Jim Vance on the swims. But those will be forthcoming, and then hopefully also cycling plans. So I'm going to stop the share here and take any questions we got from the gallery. Can you all unmute yourselves, or do I have to do it for you?
Hey Matt, Stuart here. I'm just wondering when the plans will be available in the 80/20 TrainingPeaks for coaches.
Yes, I I think they're available now. Um, um, yeah, we're doing it. Well, we got something in the chat here. Oh, yeah, because I mean, I know they're available to athletes now.
I got
I see
mine.
I see the sessions are there, but there's no plan
Plans.
such. Yeah.
Okay. We're doing another call this exactly a week from today. That's for coaches. I'm sorry I'm out of touch. Like we have our roles here at 80/20. Like I'm like the plan builder, and then I just hand them off, and I don't know. So I should be able to answer that question definitively, but
Stuart, I'll look into that. This is Jim Vance. I'll be
okay.
looking into that. It's you definitely should have them. But yes, they're certainly available. So if they're not in there, then it's just talking to Training Peaks to turn it on. So I will follow up. Expect to see them soon. If you don't, give me 48 hours. If you don't see them in there, please ping us through support.
Thanks, Jim.
Thanks, Jim. Didn't know you were there. I've got one from an
Sorry,
actual.
Matt, just to chime in on that one. I do have them in mind. And where they were found was just kind of lumped all together under training plans and then just shared plans. And the Norwegian ones seem to be at the bottom of that list.
Cool. All right. Good
Is it called,
teamwork.
sorry, is it called 80/20 Norwegian or something like that?
They are called
You should be able to use the
Norwegian
search
Training by
function.
80/20.
In that search bar at the top too, if you just type in NORW, they should come up if I'm not mistaken.
Perfect. Thank you. They are there. Sorry.
Okay. Wow. We solve problems. Okay, yeah, from Julian in Norway, or is it Julian? Yeah, target millimoles. Yeah, that's the thing. You really need to get testing. Like if you want to be, I mean, you can only make lactate testing so precise, but if you want to get it like within the ballpark, you need to get testing because it varies a lot. So, I mean, you have a lot of the numbers you get are from the elite level, but if you actually read, which you probably have, what's his face? Why do I always forget his name? The 5,000 meter run, Marius Bakken. Like if you read like his white paper, he says like the number, like I have found that the numbers that make sense for me, like as an elite runner, don't make sense for almost everyone else. So, I could throw out the elite numbers for you, 4.0, 3.5, 3.5. It's funny. All nice round numbers. Like that's not precise. But yeah, so you need to get tested. And then, so don't split the threshold work into LT1, LT2. That's basically what I'm doing. It's just it's a different nomenclature where LT1 would be the zone 1, and the LT2 would be the threshold. But I'm slicing it even thinner because, like, from what I understand, that's what Ingebrigtsen and company do. Basically, just like different durations of intervals, it only makes sense to do slightly different flavors of moderate intensity. where does strength training fit in? Just as nothing different there. You would layer in our existing strength plans on top of the run plans, just as you would with our flagship plans. Yeah, how do you get them to stay in zone one? You know what? The thing is, like, it's a choice. You know what I mean? It's like people act like it's not in their control. Like it's in your control. Like the only question is like, are you going to exercise that control? And that is a question of buy-in. And it's a tough one. Like that's why I don't really care to even linger on that aspect of it, because like I'm just, like I stand behind the methodology. I think that like if you could like if an athlete can suck it up and just really respect the zone one ceiling, even though like it feels unnatural and they don't like it, I think they would get great results. But I get it, like some people would just rather, be in zone two than get like optimal results. And that's like a personal decision. But like, in terms of like getting them to do it, you present the case, and then like as a coach, you don't want to tear your hair out. You're like, like they're either going to buy in or they're not. And if they don't, they won't know, what might have been different if they had bought in and respected that zone one ceiling. But the idea that it's like not intense enough, that's just a perception. Like when you're doing that, like even if you have to walk the hills, or even if you have to just walk if you just have to walk, like you're doing what the Norwegians are doing, like your intensity is the same. It's just you have a different body. So yeah, just like as a realist, I know like this is like, there's like a cap on the percentage of athletes who are going to buy in, and like, but that's a choice. Who would I recommend it for most? Yeah, that's a good question. I think it is like, kind of one size fits all. I mean, this is not like we, as coaches, we can't abdicate our responsibility to learn each athlete and tailor the training to their individual physiology and everything else that is unique about them. So, it's not like here's the plan, the cookie cutter is like perfect for everyone, and off you go. No, absolutely not. That being said, because like this approach is really all like it's a conservative like risk management approach to training, where it's like you're not, it's not like you're averse to working hard, but you want to work like as smart as you possibly can, taking it as given that of course you have to work hard. So it's like, it's a smarter way to work hard is what it is. So, my expectation, like similar to, when the original 80/20 plans came around, you know, everyone's out there doing 50/50 training, right? Like almost everything is moderate accidentally. And when people like switch from that to an 80/20 intensity balance, they're like, oh, wow, like I feel so much better. Like maybe I can train more now. I think like even people who are like doing the 80/20 stuff we have now and switch from that to the Norwegian method are going to have like a similar experience. Maybe not as dramatic. Um, but like it's just like it makes the hard work a little bit easier because it's smarter. And so I think that makes it very welcoming to beginners. Like this is a great method for beginner athletes. You're scaling it down even further. Regardless, you would have to do that for a beginner. But also like that it has an elite pedigree, so it clearly works for the elites. I would just say like let's not look past the individuality factor. Like some athletes are not, from what I've seen, like this really works well for a lot of athletes, but I can't assume it would work best for every athlete. So it's a great starting point. And if you've been running for a while, like it's a great just like experiment. That's really the mindset I had when I tried it for myself. And then like if just like if you like it, but it's not perfect, then you start to tinker with it and make it like your Norwegian method. Um, Any other questions? No, then. All right, I guess I'll wrap it up. Thank you so much for your kind attention. It's been fun. Like I said, these plans were a long time in the making. Yeah, I'm just like excited and curious to see how they're received. And I need to roll up my sleeves and bang out the rest of these triathlon plans because they're not going to write themselves. Thank you all, and see you next time. Be well.